Hello, good afternoon, welcome along. Today is Sunday. It is the 11th of December 2022. This is your noonday snack, so if you're coming on board, say hello. If you're on catch up, then equally say hello. Pop us a little comment in, let us know how things are going in your part of the world. It's always good to know how we're doing around the country. Bit of snow overnight, very little bit light fluttering, fluttering is what I was meant to say. So a little bit of snow on the ground this morning, which was quite nice to see. But nothing that's going to cause us any issues, hey? Hopefully things are good where you are. Let us know how things are panning out wherever you are. Say hello as you come on board. This is our noonday snack, so it's all about balance, it's about strength. We're going to use body weight today, so we don't need any tools, any implements or anything. Especially in this potentially slippy weather, I want to look at ankle strength. So we'll have a look at some ankle strength movements, and we'll also have a look at some balancey type movements as well. Dawn, good afternoon. Hello, how are you? Is Beck still with you again, or has she headed off dying? I'm about to hit the road after this. I'm going to head on up to Manchester ready for tomorrow, just in case it does snow again a little bit later on. Christine, good morning to you. Christine Perry, in from a cold, icy day in Port Talbot. I think it's a bit like that over most of the country, isn't it? A bit cold and icy. So be careful out there, folks. If you're going out, be careful. Carolyn Galloway is in. Good afternoon and good morning to you. Bit of snow here, but so cold. They've deserted you on the road back down south. What they're like, Dawn, eh? I don't know when they're missing a good thing. Hope you had a good time. Hope you had enjoyed your Christmas meal yesterday as well. I saw the picture of that earlier on. It looked amazing. Hope you had a lovely time, all of you. Ken, good afternoon to you. Good morning. We're still on the board. We're still on the side of good morning, aren't we? This is that difficult one where do I say good morning? Do I say good afternoon? We are good morning now, but then when we start, we're going to be good afternoon. So it's a bit of a one, isn't it? I'm going to turn the camera around today, so I'm going to use the armchair as my chair, which isn't ideal, but it will suffice for today. Maisie is flat out here, and she's been a bit poorly. Today, a little bit of sicky this morning, so we won't disturb her. We'll leave her where she is. She's having a nice rest, so hopefully she feels a bit better soon as well. Right, so we must be heading towards that 12 o'clock, and 12 o'clock is when we have our 3, 2, 1, and we get ourselves going. Now, remember, as always, it's about movements that we use in everyday life, and it's about working within our own range of motion, okay? Now, we are at 12 o'clock, so I'll just say a quick hello to Gillian Matthews and a quick hello to George, and then we'll get ourselves ready to go. So if you've got comments, might want to swipe them off the bottom of the screen if you've got your mobile on or an iPad. Otherwise, it might be a case of you just let them go away in the corner if it's on a laptop or a desktop. Shall we have a 3, 2, 1? Oh, good morning, everybody. Welcome along. You're with myself, Dave Montgomery from Later Life Training. Today is Sunday. It is the 11th of December 2022, and this is our noonday snack. First opportunity for us to get things going, for us to not first opportunity at all, sorry, it's the second opportunity for us to carry on getting things moving and going. It's about our balance and it's about our strength. So let's decide firstly if we're going to do it in standing or seated. If we're in standing, then we've got some fixed external support available, and I've got my wall today. I've turned around today. A couple of reasons. One, I'm all in black. Just felt like it. All in black, so I get the black part of the fireplace. My legs disappear. So I thought I'd turn around for that, but also Maisie's fast asleep down here, and I didn't want to disturb her today. So bring myself in, get myself up and going. Right, so standing or seated. Make sure you've got plenty of room around you. Nothing that's going to cause you any issues at all. Some fixed external support available if we're in standing. I've got my I've got my fireplace, that's on the other side. I've got the wall here, and I've got a chair down here. I'm going to use a lounge chair today rather than a dining room chair, simply so I've got room to actually fit it all in. Now, nothing in the floor that can cause us any issues, nothing that's going to get in our way. As always, we work to our own level. So whatever your range of motion is, whatever your level is, it is spot on, it is correct, okay? So, sitting in our chair first, let's have a quick look at this. So in our chair, we need to bring ourselves into our working position. So from the back of the chair, lift the back away firstly, and then from there it's a lift and a shift to bring ourselves into the front third of the chair. Once we're sat in the front third of the chair, we're lifting tall. And exactly the same as standing. Our heels are in line with our knees are in line with our hips, and we lift to lengthening through our neck, bringing the shoulders up, back, and pressing down so we open this rib cage. and we get a good amount of space within the upper body. From there, we can start with our circulation boosting as always, which we start at the bottom and work our way up. So I've got my heel lifts to start off with, a little pedal of the feet going on. And then from there, I'm going to bring it into a march, lifting the foot clear of the floor. That gives me an opportunity to get some more movement into our ankles happening, but it also gives us an opportunity just to build that movement, which is what it's about. One arm to start off with, driving the elbow backwards, elbows bent at about 90 degrees, so we've got a good purposeful movement. And then in standing, if we're not using support and seated, let's change support. Let's just change arms, sorry. If we are using support, then we still change arms, we just need to think about it, don't we? So hands are on the support. Support is only useful if we're using it. So hand back down, another hand off. And if it's to the side, and you've got nothing on the other side, then it's a case of losing the arm. As many steps as you need to turn into the support, changing to the other side, you can bring the other hand off then, and away we go, back on the other side. And then finally, seated down in standing, if we're not using support, both arms, both legs. Driving those arms through, good strong motion there, getting everything moving. We're looking for around about 2-3 minutes max as far as this is concerned. And as always, it's all about getting the heart pumping a little bit faster, getting the blood pumping around the body, breathing a little bit heavier, and getting ourselves ready to move into whatever the activity is that we have planned. Now, all of these movements are things that we would use in everyday life. So before we get into them, let's head towards our 2 to 3 minutes. As we get towards our 2 minutes, 3 minutes max, let's bring the arms down. Let's keep the march going for a moment longer and then start to make the march a little bit smaller. Bring it back down into a heel raise and then to a pause. At which point, a couple of deep breaths. And we're ready to move into our activities. So our first movement that I wanted to do with you is a lunging type motion. Now, we can use a lunge type motion numerous times in the day, probably without even thinking about it. We may step forward to actually pick something up. But also, if we're travelling on a bus or anything like that and it suddenly comes to a stop, we might have a bit of a lunging motion there. It's more of a correctional stepping in that case, but it's that basic type of movement there. But this is a great way to get down onto the floor as well. If we think about bringing ourselves down onto the floor, using something to put our hands onto, the first part of that is we need to get ourselves a bit closer to the floor before we actually start to bring ourselves down. So starting with that movement. In standing, 1 foot at a time, standing tall, using support if you need it, you take a step forward. Heel comes down, rolling through to the ball of the foot, and we lift up onto the toes at the back. And then from there, we're driving that back knee down as we bend this front knee. The knee comes no further forward than our shoes. So if we need to take a bit of a bigger step backwards or a bigger step forwards, we do. There's our movement, coming down and lowering slightly, pulling back up and pushing back in. And as we push back in, it's through the heel. Now, that can be as big or as small as you want it to be. So it could be here. And if we are using support, make sure your support's in front. So as you come forward, your support is now level with your shoulder. In seated, what we can do to emulate that movement, take a big step forward, toe and heel down, and then toe down, and then hinge forward. And if we want to challenge ourselves, we can reach forward a little bit, or even out to the side. If we do it on the same side, that's going to give us a feeling that all the weight is going across to one side. The thing to do with this, if you're not using support, change your foot every time. So you get an alternating movement. So we're not getting any muscle fatigue. If you are using support and it's by the side of you, then it's the leg that's furthest away from the support that moves forward. You might want to do a couple on one side, then come on in, turn into your support, change to the side, and then do a couple on the other side. So you don't get muscle fatigue, and then turn around a number of times. If we think about taking this all the way forward, then it might be just reaching down to get something out of a lower cupboard to bring it up and push ourselves back in. All the time, anything we do lift up, remember, we keep it close into the body. So if we're picking something up off the floor, we bring it into the body to keep that weight central to us rather than actually keeping it away from us, which is going to make it a longer lever onto the arms, which means it's a harder movement. Also potentially putting a bit of strain onto the back there as well. Now, the other element of this, let's have a look at coming up onto our toes and lowering back down. So this might be our reaching movement, where we're reaching to put something onto a shell. So we've picked something up, and now we're reaching to pop it up onto a shell. And from here, we can then start to put the two movements together. Now in seated, you've got exactly the same movement. Up onto your toes. To emphasise it a bit more, as you come up onto your toes, you may want to lean forward slightly, hinge from your hips, so you feel the additional weight come down through the back of the legs, so you can really feel those calves engaging. So if we wanted to put these two movements together, we've got that step forward with that lunge, that power back up, and then from there, we can come up onto our toes. And if we're using no support, you might still want to have some available for that toe lift. So we've got this step forward, power back through, centralise, and back up. But remember, when you bring your feet back in, they're back to hips width. Don't bring them all the way together. If our feet are really close together, then we've got a really challenged balance situation there. Hips width is where we're looking for. And if you feel at all unbalanced on that lunge forward, a bit of a wider stance is not a problem either. Coming forward, stepping back in, and lifting back up and lowering back down. There we go. Moving on from there, let's have a look at some strength into our ankles there. So ankles play a huge part in keeping us steady. And with this snow and the icy conditions that we have at the moment, it's really important that we try and keep the strength of the ankles really focused. All right, so in a seated position for this one, what we're going to do is put our knees in together and bring our toes in together as well. So a pigeon toe type approach. Now you might find this is a little bit easier if you take your feet away from you to start off with. The movement that we're going to do, let me turn this way a bit so you can see, is lift the toes, keeping the heels on the floor, come back down. The heels stay where they are, the knees stay where they are, we scoop the feet out. Then we lift again, coming back down, in and lifting. Now if that feels too easy for you, bring the feet a little bit closer. So we start to get a bit of a harder movement there, and you should really feel this into the ankle joint. But what this is going to do for us is really build that strength around that ankle. And remember that our ankle is continually reacting to the floor underneath our feet. So it's continually changing its position slightly to allow us to stay stable. And in these sort of conditions, that's all the more important. There we go. That is your snack for this Sunday lunchtime. I'm going to leave you there because I've got to go rush off and do something very quickly, go and sort my dad out as well. So I will see you real soon. Have a great afternoon. Stay active, stay mobile, keep crowbarring in additional movements, and I'll see you soon. Toodles.